I guess it is my baby. And I'm like, I've worked so hard for this baby. And I'm like, could I really just step away from it? I don't know. That's a tough pill to swallow.
You'll be the first guest to come on the show to denounce their business.
No, not denouncing my business. My business is awesome, but you know what I mean. I mean, I'm just...
One of our sponsors is Recon Marketing. Recon is the fastest growing social media marketing agency in Colorado. Recon focuses on becoming an extension of your business while providing social media management, review management, and digital marketing. Recon Marketing, putting you on the radar. Our next sponsor is Atmos Planning. Atmos Planning is changing the way business owners and real estate investors are served by the financial industry. Their website is atmosplanning.com, ATMOSplanning.com. Our next sponsor is Planet Duct. Planet Duct offers astronomical air duct cleaning with the most powerful vacuum trucks in Colorado. They have taken air duct cleaning to a new intergalactic level that is far more powerful and proactive than anything on the market in El Paso County and southern Colorado. Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear has a pouch for the boys. It is everyday underwear for every man. 100% money back on the first pair if you don't like it. Visit sheathunderwear.com and enter the code COSBP20 to get 20% off your order. The People's Tiny House Festival is the nation's largest gathering of simple living, featuring van conversions, bus conversions, and tiny houses, of course. Catch the event in Loveland, Colorado, July 16th and 17th at the Ranch Events Complex.
Get your tickets at peoplestinyhousefestival.com/tickets.
Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the #1 podcast in Colorado Springs. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I am the host of the show. Today, I'm sitting here with Philip Jacobs with Hightened Paths.
Yes, sir.
RV Rentals, right?
Yep, Hightened Path RV Rentals.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about what your business is?
We're an RV rental agency. Straightforward, simple as that. The thing that's different about our model is we take owners' units who aren't using their units and we manage it for them. So we do all the management, maintenance, admin, insurance, everything. So it's basically if you owned an RV, you give it to us, we take care of everything, you get a check every month.
Oh,
assuming it makes money.
Oh, because what you do is
we're
RV
like,
Rentals is other people's.
Correct. It's other people's unit.
So it's like Airbnb.
No, it's not like everybody always says it's not like Airbnb or VRBO or something like that because neither one of those companies own any real estate. It's peer-to-peer. We're like the management company.
Okay.
So it'd be more like a broker or a middleman, something of that nature.
Well, I know with a lot of Airbnbs, there'll be a lot of property management companies.
So it'd be like an RV management company.
Okay, and
at its core.
Yeah, so you guys have a location here in Colorado Springs?
Yep, we're off of 21st Street and Highway 24 on the west side.
Okay, and how's business been?
It's good. Obviously, COVID blew up for us, so that was amazing, the best year we'd ever have. But 2019 was a really lull year.
It was actually amazing. I thought travel was down a lot.
That was the one industry that tripled, almost quadrupled across the board as far as sales, consignments, rentals blew up out of nowhere. I mean, just all over the place because that was the only thing you could actually do to get. You couldn't go to a hotel, you couldn't fly, you couldn't do cruises, you couldn't do anything. So people were itching to get out and about.
But you could have an RV.
But you could take an RV and you could go everywhere you wanted to as long as the state parks weren't closed. And I mean, we could have gotten shut down last year because the governor had shut all the state parks down, which was so silly because I'm like, this is the most easiest way to escape and or social distance, if you will, and you're shutting that only means
and you're
down.
outside.
Right, you're outside, exactly. So they lifted the ban. It was like 2 weeks before Memorial Day, and they lifted the ban, and then we just blew up the whole season. So that was the best year we had ever had for sure. And
Nice.
I was expecting similar results this year, but it definitely tapered off kind of back to our average, I would say.
Okay.
So we still got a lot of COVID overflow, but not as much as 2020.
Okay, so how long have you been around?
So technically, it's kind of a trick question, but technically I've been doing this since 2009. I actually used to be a FedEx contractor. I worked for FedEx Ground. I was a contractor, blah, 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 blah. And at the time, I had gotten divorced. This is like the story behind the business, if you will. I had gotten divorced in 2009. At the time, my wife and I, we owned a motorhome. And it was Class A motorhome. Well, I didn't know what to do with it. I talked to some buddies. They said, oh, you should rent it out, you know. This was before there was anything out there. I mean, there was people doing it, but it was nothing. I don't know what the word I'm trying to say. There was no organization about it, if you will. So it was just you put it on Craigslist. There was no Facebook. There was nothing out there to really advertise or people knew what you were doing. But you put it on Craigslist, and it just kind of organically took off.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I was renting a Class A motorhome for like $85 a night, which should have been renting for about $350.
Oh, okay.
But again, I was just trying to make my payments. I didn't know what to do with this thing. I didn't want to file for bankruptcy, et cetera, et cetera. But I still had my career at FedEx. So then I had ended up leaving FedEx ground, and 2010 was probably an off year for me, I would say. Probably one of the worst years of my life. But I had some options in front of me, and the few options I had, one of them was still the RV rental, and I still had my RV, and I said, well, let me rent it out and see if I can make money with it. And little by little, it just kind of started organically growing, and that's why I kind of pursued it, was because I didn't have to try. I didn't have to advertise. I didn't have to do anything. Like, I just listed my RV on Craigslist, and people were just banging down my door to rent it.
It was
just
well.
working out without me trying.
Nice.
So I just figured, let's just pursue this. But now here I am 12 years later. It's a full-time business. I opened 2 locations.
Nice.
I ended up closing the second location, but I had gone down to Arizona because I'm originally from there. We operated down there for 5 years, and then we had to close the doors down there for various reasons. So now I just focus on the Colorado Springs. I don't know. There's a lot more to it, I'm sure, but
do people come out of state to come
all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Is that your main business?
Yeah, I would say 70% of our business is out of state.
Okay.
Because Colorado is definitely a destination. Like when you think of national state, well, mostly national parks, they're all out west. There's very few on the East Coast. There's some, but none that you could probably
Colorado
name.
is like a giant
Tons
national
of them.
park.
Well, and just within, like if you fly into Denver, so we deliver to DIA all the time. So people fly in, they don't want to drive down the Springs because they're heading up to Yellowstone, or they're going to the Tetons, or they're going to wherever. So we'll go and deliver it to them at the airport. But so, I mean, just right outside of Denver, you've got Yellowstone, you've got Mount Rushmore, the Tetons. You can go west and go to Moab and Bryce Canyon and Arch, all those places down southern Utah. If you want to go down south, we have the Great National Sand Dunes. We have Cortez, Four Corners. Then you can skirt your way into the Grand Canyon. So there's so many big, major national parks just within, a day's drive. So that's where a lot of our business comes from.
Okay. And so the demand is obviously there.
It's always been there.
And it's always been there.
It's always been there.
That's been one of the easy parts. What has
Correct.
been one of the harder parts?
So, well, it's a trick question. At the beginning, I would say the hardest part for me was finding units because I didn't have the capital to buy my own units, and I still don't. But trying to convince owners back then to allow me to take your $50,000 to $200,000 RV or whatever it was, and allow me to just hand it over to me, and I'm just going to take care of this thing. That was a hard sell for a lot of people, and it didn't matter the dollar amount I pitched to them. I'd say, oh, you make this amount of money. They didn't care. They were always concerned about the same thing. It's going to get destroyed. It's going to get wrecked. Somebody's going to trash it or whatever. And that could very well happen, but that's what insurance is for. That's what checks are, what am I trying to say? Background checks, things of that, just trying to interview the people.
Most people are good for the most part.
For the most part. Again, COVID was such a different year. People didn't care. They didn't care to lose their deposits during COVID. They were just like, whatever, I just want to get out. And we got a lot of units that were coming back pretty iffy.
Oh, okay.
And then this year, too, was such a bizarre year. And I would say almost all of our driving units this year had a collision. And we never have that.
Oh, wow.
Like, ever. And again, it's okay. It's paperwork. It's insurance. It's a pain in the butt, but we'll get them fixed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when an owner gives us a unit, we're going to give it back to them as good as we got it, minus wear and tear. You know what I mean? We're not going to let people just trash it and just be like, that's it, whatever. We go after the renters a lot. We go after, certain situations. And there's a lot of stuff that we eat those costs to deal with.
And that's part of your business model, though.
It is. We take care of all the management. And it's so now fast forwarding, it's easier for me to get owners because now there are platforms out there now that do the peer-to-peer like the Airbnbs and whatnot. So there's a lot of people that bought RVs and they have no idea what to do with them. I know the numbers. I know the statistics. I know how it works. You buy an RV. You think you're going to use it. You might use it your first year for maybe 4 weeks, right? And the exception to this is full-timers. Full-timers, that's totally a different ballgame. But people that just buy it because they go to a trade show or they go to Camping World or wherever and they see these things and they're nicer than their home and they're like, oh, man, this is so great. We can afford this, whatever. After 1 year, 2 years, they have no idea what to do with it. They're paying for storage. They're paying every year for registration, which is like $2,000 in this state. It's unbelievable. They're paying for insurance, whether you use it or not, and you have to maintain the thing even though it's sitting. So there's all these costs that they don't consider when they buy an RV, and then they find us and they're like, can you help me? Like, I'm drowning in payments or whatever the case may be. But then moving back to these platforms, people will list on these platforms like, oh, I can rent it out. And they realize what a nightmare it is. Like, it's so much more work than they would ever imagine. Like, I've been in the hospitality business. I've done all sorts of different things. And this is by far the hardest endeavor I have ever done. And I mentor a lot of people that are getting into this business. And I tell them all the same thing, not to scare them, but I just want them to know the absolute blunt truth. Like, this is a lot of work. If you are not prepared for some of these crazy calamities that will absolutely happen, just give it time, like, this is not for you. And I had no idea. Obviously, I was doing this on a whim. I had no coaches or mentors or anything of that nature in this business. I found some because I found somebody in Arizona. And when I had first started, I was renting here because we're only seasonal in Colorado. So we're from Memorial Day through Labor Day, and that's pretty much it. Hit or miss during the wintertime. Honestly, I hate doing winter rentals. They're awful. No offense to the people that are my renters. If you're watching this, no offense. I just don't like it because it's cold. Washing them, cleaning them in the cold, checking the tires, doing the oil, all that stuff is a pain in the butt. And then they're all winterized, so we winterize them from October through April. And then people are like, oh, I want running water. I want to go ski and take this up and, hang out on the slopes. I'm like, well, there's no bathroom because there's no water. There's no shower. There's none of these. So we don't get a lot of rentals in the winter. I could. But again, I don't want to deal with it. But my point is so back then with my RV, I found a gal in Arizona and I hooked up with her, partnered with her, and we still talk today and we still, bounce ideas and whatnot. And she was probably my only mentor that I had at the time. And she had already been in business for probably 5 or so years. So I was gleaning from her and learning from her and doing what I could and figuring all that stuff out. And I think back then, what made me super unique or different from like the national companies like the Cruise Americas and some of these other ones, when I first started doing this, I wanted you to just be able to come in the RV ready to go. Just throw your food in there and have a nice day. So we wanted to make sure everything was ready, topped off, and most people do this, but like we included the linens, the pots and pans, the cleaning supplies, everything you needed to just top in and go. Whereas most companies will nickel and dime for all that stuff. Now that the market is competing with the peer-to-peer platform, everybody's throwing everything in, their dog, their kitchen sink and everything. Oh, you can take my dog, whatever it is. And, for $100 a night. And so now I find that it's harder now to compete with the peer-to-peer platforms. And I don't want to say that writing's on the wall. It's just that we have to market very differently and there has to be a different appeal. So if you came to me and say, well, why should I rent from you? There's this guy on this platform that's renting his similar to yours for only $200 a night and you're at $300 a night. Why should I rent from you? And so our pitch has to be, we're a professional company. We've been around for 12 years doing this professionally. Every unit is thoroughly inspected before and after they come back, to make sure things are operational. If there is a glitch in anything, we let you know. You don't just show up and then, oh, by the way, tires blown out or whatever. I've heard a lot of horror stories from the platform sites where people will come to us. They'll show up at, Joe's house or whatever to pick up an RV that they saw on one of the peer-to-peer platforms.
Joe doesn't really
know. And Joe doesn't know. And Joe's like, well, here's your RV. And it's not cleaned or it's just filthy. The tanks aren't dumped. Fill in the blank. And they're just like, oh my gosh, this is not what was advertised to me. And then they'll find us last minute. So the other thing that's awesome about us is that we have 25 units at any given time. So we have a variety. Yeah. So if you're like, you come here and you're like, I want to rent a trailer, but then you change your mind. You're like, actually, why don't we just rent a Class B? You've got one. Yeah, we've got one available. Or maybe we do, maybe we don't. But the point is you can mix and match or trade. So your money's good for any one of our units. It's not like it sticks with one particular unit, which is great. The other thing that we kind of pitch is that on the platforms, if you put a reservation deposit down, which usually is 50%, no less, you lose that. It's gone. You have 30 days and that's it. So if you book in January for a July trip, after January 31st, that money's not yours. You can't get it back, right? With us, we wait up until 10 days before your trip. And we only ask for $300 down. And the nice thing about it is I'm human. I know things happen. Things are going to happen with you. Your kid could get sick, whatever. Things could happen. That $300 is good indefinitely. We'll hold that deposit for a future rental and we get tons of repeat business like that, which is awesome because Why would I put myself in their shoes? I wouldn't want to lose $300. And then it's not a lot of money, but it's just enough to, cover my expenses, to make the reservation and do this, that, and the other. And then we just, wait for you to show up. But anyways, sorry, I'm kind of rambling on
it's good.
different tangents. But anyways, what else?
Podcasts tend to work better when the person
I know.
can talk.
I get it. It's true.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like an investment for the people who own the RVs.
It could be. And that's another. So again, there's companies out there now that are doing this and they pitch it as an investment. But again, I know the real numbers. I've been doing this for so long. I have lots of data. Can you make money doing this? Absolutely. But you absolutely would make more money doing it yourself. Hands down. No doubt about it. We are a 50-50 split. So if you own the unit, you give it to me, it's a 50-50 split. There's some other little nuances with that contract, but for the most part, the nightly rate is split 50%. You can make money, but again,
it's not about that.
It's not. You're probably, best case scenario is you're making money. Normal case scenario is you're paying your monthly maintenance, you're paying your insurance, you're paying your monthly, I don't want to say rent, whatever, your note, whatever it is, you're paying your bills, you're covering your insurance costs, you're covering all of your expenses.
The RV is taking care of itself.
Correct, which is nice. And then we treat the owner like concierge service. So when you show up, like you give us 48 hours at least, and you can't take it when it's booked, but you would show up, it's ready to go. Like you don't have to do anything, which the owners, they probably love that part. But the crazy thing is I could tell you on one hand, out of 25 units, how many of my owners I see every year.
How many?
No, I'm saying on one hand.
Oh, okay.
That's it. So out of 25 owners, I might see 5 of them every year that come and actually use their RV. Most of them don't. Because I know the statistics. They go buy them, they'll use it for 4 weeks to 6 weeks. That number is cut in half up to 5 years. And at 5 years, they never touch it again.
Wow.
And they have
typical.
a 15-year note on it. So what are they going to do with it? So that's the problem. But then there are owners who will see this, and I am very real with my owners. I will tell them the real numbers. I'm not going to BS them. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, look, this is what you could potentially make. I have plenty of examples. Like, here's your style unit. Here's 3 years of records from something similar, so you can expect something in that ballpark. So that way they know going in what their return of investment would be, or if they're like, nope, I just want to own it. I want you to take care of it, and I want to use it twice a year. Fine. That's fine with me. I mean, whatever works for you. But could it be an investment? Yes. I think you would have to buy a handful. And they have to be very specific units. I know what those units are. And I've done that with owners in the past who will go buy 2 or 3 units and say, buy me these. If you can afford these, buy these 3.
And they're treating it like numbers. Buying a bunch of vending machines or buying
that's it. And the lifespan on RV rentals, see, this is different than the auto industry. You went back to one of the hard things in business, which I haven't even touched yet, finding the owners. But we've kind of solved that problem now because of the peer-to-peer platforms. There's plenty of people out there that are knowledgeable about it. It's common knowledge now, and people aren't as intimidated by it. Plus, we actually go to the peer-to-peer platforms and just take them because we'll just message them and say, hey, do you want a company to manage it for you? And they're like, hell yeah, like this is so much work. Yeah, we didn't even know you existed. Yes, please. And we have RVs from all over the country. But anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. But
the hard part.
Oh, the thing that probably frustrates me the most, that's what I was saying about the auto industry. Like, they have a 3 to 5 year lifespan. That's it. So, like in the auto industry, you can rent cars pretty much like indefinitely as long as you maintain them and keep them up, right? I mean, you could. Now, most, enterprises and different car companies are going to flip them and sell them every year or 2 years or whatever it is because that's their business model. But you could hypothetically rent out a car for probably easy 5 to 10 years if it was still in great shape, right? You can't with RVs. Like, it's really hard to do because they are made so cheap, unbelievably cheap. At their core, that's the biggest frustration. Like, I can deal with my owners. I can deal with my renters. They're different headaches. But dealing with the manufacturers and the quality of these things is just like, I hate it. I can't stand it because I would never deal with this with an automobile. Ever. Ever. And it's just crazy what comes off the line. We've gotten stuff that directly came from manufacturers, brand new. And there were dozens of problems we had to fix before we could even put it into the fleet to rent. And we deal with this all the time. So we know this going into it, but after every single rental, we have to fix something.
Wow. Okay.
Have to. And it's just because these things are so cheaply made. So, but that's probably my biggest pet peeve of this whole business. If I was dealing with cars or houses or something that's a little more uniform, it would make this a lot more fun, I think.
Okay.
It would make it a lot better.
Maybe you
and
need
not
some
so
tiny
stressful.
houses.
Yeah, maybe some tiny houses. The thing about tiny houses, and I've looked into them. Actually, I tried to partner with a couple of companies that want to do tiny homes. They can't be moved, really, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the RVs and the motorhomes are so problematic, is because they are a house on wheels, and they are moving all the time. So
Yeah.
they're constantly tightening screws, constantly doing this, constantly doing that. A tiny home is meant to be like stationary and moved very little, is what I found out.
You build out like the infrastructure for everything, like to where your house is
Correct.
going to be.
You figure out where you're going to put it, where it's going to stay, et cetera, et cetera. And that's great because that's how those work. But yes, when I went, there's a guy up in Woodland Park. There's a company down here. They're off of like not Mark Dablin, but somewhere out east. I don't know where they're at. But anyways, I talked to them and tried to pitch to them, and they were like, "Yeah, this is not a good idea because these are meant to sell and be put somewhere." And you know, they explained it all. And but even looking at the quality, when I was looking at these companies as they were building things, 10 times better than how the motorhomes are even built. And I'm like, I get that you guys don't want to move these, but these could actually move and be okay. Whereas these RVs, I swear, like you move them 5 times and the wall's falling off. It's crazy. Anyways.
Yeah. And so you got your Class A.
So the different classes. So what you can rent. A Class A, most people don't know all the various classes. You would think I would know this. I know a lot of the technical terms. I don't know why they're labeled the classes that they are. No idea.
Okay.
A Class A, it looks like what I call like a bus style or a cigar on wheels. Like they got the big flat front. You know, they look larger, taller, so to speak, more spacious. That's a Class A. You do not need a Class A license to drive it. They're just called Class A's. I don't know why. And again, they can be, size is irrelevant because I've seen Class A's as small as 25 feet, which is tiny, tiny, tiny. But they sit up really high. You know, they're like 13 feet high, and they've got so much space. The thing about Class A is you're paying for the space, the move around space. Excuse me. Then you have like the Class B's, which are the conversion vans. Okay. Those are by far the most popular units ever.
Do you guys have a lot of those?
I wish. They are so hard to come by.
My buddy here, Brian, makes them.
Does he? But so those are converted. Those are conversion vans. Those are different. Class B vans, they're still a Class B van because they're on a van chassis. I'm talking about like the motorhomes. They've got the bathrooms, the kitchen, everything, etc. Those generally, like there's Wayfarer vans, there's that one. There's those companies. That's like the most popular thing right now.
Yeah.
And definitely on the West Coast. They're more conversion kits. Like they may not have toilets, or they may not have running water. They may not have a generator built in or whatever.
He's building one right now that has all plumbing.
Yeah, and they can. I'm not saying they don't, but generally speaking, that's how they're sold. And then the end user will do all that aftermarket stuff and add the batteries and the cells and the solar panels and all that jazz, so they have electricity and stuff. But anyways, so those are the Bs. My favorite are B pluses or Super Bs. They're on a B chassis, so they're on a van chassis, but they look like a Class C, which I haven't got to yet. Those are the cab over styles. Those are the ones that you see all over the road, the Cruise Americas and whatnot. They have like they look like a moving truck, like they have like the nook above where you sit. So I call them cab overs. But the Bs have those as well, and they're only 24, 25 feet, but they're perfect. They're by far my money makers. They're my favorite units, hands down, any day of the week. And yes, I have like 4 or 5 of those, and I would love to have just a fleet of 25 of them. They're amazing.
Nice.
And then you have your C's, which I mentioned. So your C's are like the workhorse of the industry. They're everywhere. Class C's are the most popular units. Everybody sees those and they just assume, oh, I'm going to rent a Class C because it's easier to drive. Truth be told, Class B's are by far easier to drive than anything on the road, and then Class A's are the runner-up by far. Not even a close second or close third. Like Class C's don't even touch second when it comes to easy to drive. People see the Class C's and they look like a truck, van, whatnot, and they're like, oh yeah, I can get in this. They're really hard to drive, a lot harder than most people think, but those are the most popular units to rent. And the other reason why they're the most popular is because they sleep the most. They can sleep anywhere from 8 to 10. So in the RV rental industry, it's sleepability. The more you can sleep, the better. Doesn't matter if you need it or not. If you came to me and it was you and your wife or what have you, you come to me and you're like, well, I want to Class A. And I'm like, well, we've got this one that sleeps 10. No, I don't need to sleep that much. But they don't care. They just want the space. They want the 30 foot of space, and they don't care about it. They'll just use it for storage or luggage or whatever. But then you're the same family. You're like, oh, I've got my friends and their kids, and there's 8 of us. Well, take the same Class A, right? It's the same thing. It sleeps 10. So that's the nice thing about the RV rental industry. The units that I want them to sleep as many as possible. Even the Class Bs or the conversions. If you only have 1 queen bed, I can rent it. I know my price point, but I'd love it if you had a little sofa in there or something else that could fold down that could give me 3 or 4. But then you have, so you get your Class A's, your Class B's, your Class C's. That covers the drivables, all your motorhomes. And then you have trailers.
Oh, yeah.
So many varieties of trailers, pop-ups, hybrids. Hybrids are my favorite trailers, definitely hands down. Hybrids are a mix of pop-ups and a hard-sided trailer. Hard-sided just means that there's no soft points on it. It's just solid all the way around. Whereas a pop-up is all canvas. So when you pop it up, it's all soft-sided, right? It's all vinyl or canvas or whatever it is, and it's real soft. A hybrid is a mix of the both, which is great because they add 2 more extra beds.
Oh, because they pop outside?
They pop out on the front and the back. So they're hard-sided all the way around, but then when you go and set up camp, the front and the back flip down, voila. Now you've got 2 queen beds, and you got 2 beds inside the trailer
you're
itself.
glamping, as they say.
Absolutely. So those are those. And then, of course, any style of trailer, mix and match. A trailer is a trailer to me. We don't do fifth wheels. We stay clear away from fifth wheels. You've got to have special trucks, special equipment, various different hitches for them. I don't touch those. There are people that do them. I usually recommend, like, if you own a fifth wheel, go rent it out yourself. Go mess with it yourself because it's a lot of work, and you probably have the right truck. You probably have the right hitch because it's your fifth wheel. But anyways, whereas travel trailers, any hitch will work. It doesn't really make a difference.
Okay.
So that's pretty much our variety. And then, of course, you've got the little teardrops and the tabs and the little A-frames and stuff like that. And we get a variety of different things every year. So you always have to check our inventory and see what we have about. But generally speaking, I always have the same style units. I generally have about 3 Class A's, majority are Class C's, and then Class B's if I can get them. And then as far as trailers, I usually have anywhere from 3 to 8 travel trailers. And we'll keep a few what I call monster travel trailers. They're anything 28, 30-foot plus. They're huge. Nobody can pull them. Nobody has a truck that can pull them, so we usually have to do delivery only on those, or if you have a 1-ton truck, then great, you can haul off and have a nice day. And those are great too, but they don't rent nearly as much as I like because of the whole not having a truck issue. So
okay. So if you had no limitations, where would you take this company if there was nothing that could hold you back?
So what I've tried for 10 years. So before there was a peer-to-peer platform out there, now there's like 4 or 5. I actually wanted to be that space.
Okay.
I was actually meeting with a friend of mine from a church in Washington State who actually was the inventor of the slide rooms in motorhomes, trailers, everything. So I don't know if you know what that is. So when you get into an RV, some have slide outs or pop outs or whatever they want to call them. And what that does is they're usually maybe this deep, 3 to 4 feet deep. And once you park, you push them out and they slide out, and this adds all this extra space inside. So it's all this extra living space when you set up camp or whatnot. They invented it. This guy invented it. Whole other story. Not interested in that right now. But the point is when I went down to Arizona to grow my business and expand and try to get some more locations, because again, I was seasonal here and I was like, I'm only getting 3 to 4 months here. Let me go back to Arizona. And I went and opened up shop down there so we could keep moving them year round. I had several meetings set up with this gentleman, and we just never could connect. And it was driving me crazy because he's a multi-billionaire, and he was, and we were friends. So it wasn't like it was somebody I didn't even know, and we just never connected. So at the time, I was trying to not invent, it wasn't an invention, but just be that marketplace because I wanted to get out of the management of it. The management is so hard because of the units and dealing with renters and everything else and dealing with the owners. But so that was the one thing. So to kind of answer your question, that ship sailed a long time ago, but I still continue to develop my own software, my own website, and my own stuff. I didn't want to be tied to the platform sites because they're shady. They can be very shady, and I know for a fact they do not care about the owners, which is insane because that's how they get business. Like, they only care about the renters, anyways, story for another day. But so if I could, I'd love to have like I always wanted to have national. Like, I wanted to expand out to 5 different states. I had 5 states picked out. I had locations picked out. I was going to go to Vegas. I had one in Arizona, but that shut down. I was going to do one in Texas and one in Florida. And those are the states I had picked out to branch out and expand. But it's hard. And The biggest problem I would say with that is finding a location. Because either you're going to be renting, which is okay, but where are you going to find? I just need asphalt. I don't need an office. I don't necessarily. I mean, having bays to work on would be great and ideal. I need 3 things. I need water, electricity, and if you have dump, that's perfect. And a bunch of asphalt. I'll take dirt. I've dealt with dirt, but it's annoying, but I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
But ideally that's what you need. So that's hard to find in this niche because most of the asphalt's already taken up. So take, for example, here in the Springs, if I were to drive down Academy, midtown, there's a ton of empty asphalt, but they're not zoned for RVs. I can't just go gobble them up and put some RVs on that plot. They're only for specific commercial businesses. RVs have to be outside of the city, which is so silly.
That is,
Anyways,
yeah.
but it's the same problem in various other states and locations. So I've never really pursued it anymore because I'm just like, I've got enough on my plate to deal with. But yes, that would be the ideal. Now, what I'm looking at doing now is full-blown mentorship. And because I have the software now, I can sell that as part of the package. And I'm working on little by little, just putting my packages together, my mentorship program together, stuff like this, which I just haven't had time to do because I'm a business person and I'm working my butt off all the time. But ideally, that's where I'd like to take it because I'm tired. I'm tired of the grind. I'm tired of the management and the checking in and checking out and dealing with all that stuff. There's just so many moving parts that it just gets so stressful and overwhelming. And I mean, in the summertime, I will be working from 6 to sometimes 10 to midnight just because we're just so
Do you have employees?
busy. Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Although this year, whatever. Now, mind you, if my employees were watching, I love my employees. They're awesome. The ones that actually stay and tough it out and stick it out and they're amazing. I love them to death. They are amazing, and I would pay them a fortune if I could afford it. And I pay them as best as I can. Believe me, I hardly pay myself. I always tell this to them. I don't think they believe me. They make more money than me any day of the week. But so I usually in the summertime I'm running anywhere between 5 to 7 employees. I have to. This year we had 4. So we were like drowning this year because nobody wanted to work, and it was just pissing me the hell off. But that's a story for another time.
For sure.
But yeah, so that was just very frustrating, and it just adds to the. It just adds to the lack of appeal, or just I don't want to do this anymore because I'm just like I'm so tired of it. I'm like I'm over it. But yeah, so I see like doing the mentorship, and instead of trying to open 5 locations and deal with more stress and deal with that, sure we could probably do it. Now there are now millions of people that are getting on the platforms that don't have a clue, and I'm in a lot of the forums, and I'm like. Advertising and trying to coach these people, and some people will bite, some people don't because they think it's weird or shady. They're like, coach, why would I need a coach?
For sure. I mean, yeah, people have to see the value for sure.
Exactly. And I just haven't sold that yet because I haven't put anything together yet. As of now, it's just me going out there and saying, hey, do X, do Y, don't do X, don't do Y, or are you prepared for X, or are you prepared for Y? And they're just like looking at me, cross-eyed. I guess looking is not the right word because it's on forums and it's typing, but they don't get it. And the people that have taken my time or done phone calls with me or paid for my time for phone calls and whatnot, they're on the forums and like, whatever this guy says, you should be hearing, you should be listening to, because he's got far more expertise than anybody by far on these platforms, like hands down. But again, there's plenty to learn, but that would be ideally where I would love to take this company to. Full circle answer your question is just I'd rather get out of the management of it. I'd rather get like into consignment now and not deal with rentals. The market's hot for sales right now. So we've been doing consignment on the side. I wouldn't mind getting into detailing. That's been something I've been putting off for years, RV detailing, because we already do it technically with every single rental. And there's a huge market for that. Again, I just barely started marketing that, doing some mobile stuff because nobody wants to bring their RV anywhere once it's parked somewhere. They're like, I don't want to go drive and pick it up and bring it to you. So we offer mobile services, just basic things right now. But the nice thing about me, or where I'm stationed now, is we partner with a repair shop. So that's been a huge game changer for me for like the last 6 years. Because doing all of our own work, trying to find parts, trying to go get service and anything done into any of these places is 3 to 6 months. So forget that mess. My season's already over by then. So I've had learn a lot about fixing these things. So I've hired on people, I've trained them, I've coached them, but whatever we can't handle, I literally just hand it over to the shop, and they will get me in the door immediately because they know my business, and they'll just get it done. So that's huge. But I don't have a desire. My point is I don't have a desire to go out into the repair field because I would never want to step on his toes. I would never, we've got a pretty good relationship, and I'm always kosher with him and just letting him know and candid and say, hey, just FYI, we're going to offer mobile winterizations. We're going to offer mobile oil changes because I know you don't do this. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. So he doesn't do it. He'd rather everything in-house. So it's fine.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I'm looking at ways that we can expand just to keep my employees, doing other things, because in the wintertime, I have to let them go. There's nothing for them to do in the wintertime. So like I run a ghost, skeleton crew, if you will, during the winter, and that's pretty much it. I got 3 people, and they might be working 10 to 20 hours a week.
Your turnaround is probably fast
I mean, we only have a few rentals, so it's like they come, we flip them, they're in and out, and that's it. We don't have to.
I mean, what I meant is like it's probably hard to keep employees because of that.
It has been, yes. And these 3 are rock stars. They're awesome that I have at my core right now. My office assistant, my lot manager, and my maintenance or my technician. They're doing an outstanding job. Like this year was probably the first year that I was hands off.
Nice.
Which was amazing.
It sounds like that's what you're leaning to.
That's what every business wants, right? At the end of the day, you want to be hands off your business and only working 20 hours a week and not 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
But it's taken so long to get here. But yes, will they stick around? I don't know. I mean, I'm very candid with them. I'm very real with them. And I always tell them, you got to do what's best for you. At the end of the day, I love you. I love your loyalty. I want you working for me because I love you and I'll pay you to work for me. But I understand there's 6 months that I ain't exactly providing any work.
Yeah.
So you might have to go find some other work or whatever. And I get it. Like, it's fine. But yes, that is definitely one of the challenges of being seasonal, getting cleaners every year, getting, laundry gal or whoever it is, just whatever it is. That is definitely hard. And then I have to retrain them. And then I got to spend, 2 weeks to a month to train them. And then 3 months later, the season's over. But yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're wanting to be fully hands off, and when you lean in on the mentorship, are you going to keep the
would I keep the business? So it would probably be, I would probably hand it over to them with supervision, like kind of like what I'm doing this year, and see what they want to do, because at the end of the day, they're doing the work, and I know how much work it is. So at the end of the day, I'm always checking in with them, and I'm like, where's your stress level at? Where are you at? How are you frustrated, or what's going on in your head? Because I want to make sure that they're good, that they're enjoying what they're doing. And if not, yes, I mean, they know this. All of them know this going into this, because I've told them all in an interview. I'm like, this business could shut down at any moment because of me, because it's just taking such a toll on my own life and free time and everything else. And they all know this going into it. I'm like, but the more you guys can take off my plate, the more we can keep growing this business. But if I can't, I'm like, just know this. It's nothing personal. It's just, I still have to do what's best for me, because I've got a family, I got kids, I got things to deal with, and, whatever. But to answer your question, I don't know. Again, ideally, I'd rather not do the rentals anymore. Honestly, I know that sounds crazy, because here I am interviewing about RV rentals, and I'm like, it's just so much more work than people realize. And I would rather get into like the sales, where we're making a few sales a week. I mean, that sounds way easier than flipping 25 units in a week. You know what I mean? And cleaning them and getting them ready and getting all the laundry done and cleaning all the pots, pans, and everything else that goes with it. I'm just like, oh my gosh. That sounds so much more, so much easier. But I would still try to keep that crew. And if we can pivot into something different or better or easier, that's still in the same niche, sure. That's still in the same RV market, sure. There's plenty to go around. The other thing is inspections. That's going to be that's already starting to become popular, again, because of the rental industry and because of sales and whatnot, because I know how these things come from manufacturers. If you go to buy a unit from Camping World right now, they're going to say that they inspected it. Odds are they probably didn't. They maybe they inspected, maybe they didn't. And this isn't to throw shade at Camping World. I just know, because I know the guys that work there. But it's the same thing. So now there's people that need to be professional inspectors, that when you go buy an RV, again, this is just a world that people just don't know or understand. They think, oh, it's a car or it's a house. No, it's both, and it's on wheels, and it's moving all the time. And there's so many more problems that you would not even imagine. So now inspectors are making buku bucks going to do pre-sales inspections, so that way you can buy it comfortably. Or I can go to you and say, hey, it needs about $4,000 of work. Tell the seller to drop the price, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Or now even some of the Camping Worlds or some of these other places, they're getting so many units, they don't have time to inspect them. well, we can come in and do the inspections for them and, pitch that. But anyways, my point is so that's on my eye and table right now. And if that was something that I could do, you got to go to school for it, blah, 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 because of certifications, who cares? But, I mean, could I do it now? Yes, I know everything that I'd be looking for in an inspection because we're doing it already. But it would be nice to have the little certificate, pat on the back, yada, 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 hey, we're certified, whatever. And then I could train my team to do those inspections and, again, hand it off to them. They get a pretty penny for doing it, and great, we're still making money, and we're not dealing with the stress of the summer rentals. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where this business goes. Every single year, I'm just assuming it may disappear because of the amount of work that's involved. I mean, there have been days that literally nobody shows up, and I've got 5 units going out, and they're not ready.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not good.
That if you were the owner of the business, you just want to walk away. You're like, I don't even care. Like, I literally do not care right now. But you have renters that paid a lot of money, and you're going to ruin their vacation. So what do? You've got to show up to work. You got to be there, So it's those kinds of things. And I know most businesses, like I've got plenty of like mentors in various, areas of my life. And, I hear these different things. Like there's nothing that's per se easy. There's things you can avoid and there's things you can do differently and you learn from your mistakes. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have those days. I just feel like during the 3 months, it feels like 3 months, not one day or one day out of the week. It feels like every day there's something going on. Every day there's a fire we have to put out, and there's always something going on. So that's just part of it. And I don't want to sound, again, I've said this speech so many times when people talk to me. I don't want to sound like I hate my company or I hate my business. Like I built it to what it is, and it took a lot of work. My website is hands down one of the best out there. Like I built it all from scratch out of my garage. It's one of those stories. But it never panned out the way I had originally visioned it. So, and I still feel like 12 years later, as many people will say, you're successful. Like you're making money and you're successful. And this, I'm like, but a person that said something, and I will never forget this, is there's good success and there's bad success. Both of them are successful, but which one is eating all of your time, energy, health, et cetera, et cetera? And if it's the latter, then it's probably bad success. It means that your business is doing well, you're generating revenues, you're doing this, that, and the other, you're getting customers, clientele, whatever the case is, but it's taking tons of your time of your life, which we all know is something we will never get back.
For sure, yeah.
So that's why I always weigh this, and that's why I always say this at the end. During my season, I'm like, I never know what could happen. I mean, I've had people sue me into oblivion, and every time I'm just like, well, this could be it. This might be the time.
Why would they?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just pick your poison. Renters are that's the other thing about this. And again, I'm over the renters at this point. Like, I love my great renters. I love them. Come back, please. Like, I will have you any day of the week. I'll give you a deal. Come on back. We love you. I hate the bad renters, right? There's always the bad apples or whatever in any market renter. You hate those people because they drive you insane. I've had people try to sue me into oblivion for the stupidest things. And I'm just like, whatever, dude. Do what you got to do. Like, I've got lawyers on call. Do whatever you need to do.
Did it work out for them?
No.
Okay, good.
No. No. I've got stories like that, story after story after story. And, one in particular was some lady that rented from me. This was like 3 years ago or something. And it was just so crazy. She rents from me. The moment she shows up, she's complaining about something. And I'm just like, all right.
Okay, before she's even done.
Before she's even she's just looking at she's like, oh, there's a scratch or I don't even remember what it was. Something so mundane. And she's like, I want a new unit. I'm like, this is the only unit we have available. I'm like, take it or leave it. Like, you can walk away and I'll keep your deposit and you can have a nice day. Yeah. And she's like, no, you're going to give me the unit that I rent. I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I'm just like, whatever. So, and then it was like, oh, there's not good water pressure. I need you to fix the water pressure right now. I'm like, I can't. The shop is closed. I can't get parts. I can't she's like, well, you just need to figure it out. Like, it was just, that's how it started, right? And I'm just like, all right, I already know this lady's going to want a refund. She's going to rent it. She's going to want a refund on the way back. She's going to want $1,000 off for some crazy. I already knew this going into this. And you just know these renters, right? When they set their foot on the premise, you know what kind of renter they're going to be. And but I got to be like, yes, of course. Yes, we'll help you out. But I'm sure there's that little chip on me where they can see that I'm like, I don't have time for you. And I'm going to walk away from you because you're seriously, like, I have literally handed people back their money right there on the spot.
Okay.
And I'm like, your trip's done right now. And they'll be like, what? And I'm like, we're done here. I will fully refund you because I'm that kind of guy, even though I have rights to all of your money, but I don't want you anywhere near this RV. And I've told people that, and they'll look and they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't, no, we are done. Like, I already know you're going to be problematic. I don't have time for it. Anyways, but this lady, so fast forwarding, so she rents the RV, she goes, we finally get her out on the road, and mind you, she was 3 hours late, right? That's the other thing. Oh my gosh. So she's 3 hours late, she's keeping us after hours, and then she's complaining about every little thing, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't have time for this, I gotta get home. And she takes the RV. She's going to Vegas. Long story short, she smells propane. She thinks there's a propane leak. And 90% of the issues that are in RVs are user error. We include troubleshooting manuals. I have videos. I have tutorials. I have so much for you to be successful when you show up. I mean, there is so much. Like I am a phone call away as well. If you can't figure it out and you can't utilize everything I've provided you and still can't get it, just please call me because I could probably solve it in 5 minutes. Anyways. So she's calling me up like crazy. She's blowing up my phone at like midnight. Oh, there's a propane leak. There's this and that. Is your stove on? Is the dial on the stove? Yes. Oh, well, that's why you're smelling propane. Somebody left this, And so we're walking through these problems. Anyway, she ends up in Las Vegas. Now, propane tanks, again, this is boring stuff. Propane tanks have to expand in heat and cold. So when you fill them up, they can't be overfilled because they have to be able to expand. So when she goes to a hotter place, well, it's going to expand, right? So there's a leak valve built into propane tanks on purpose, so that way they can leak out the excess propane. Well, she's smelling it as she's driving, and she's like, oh, there's propane leak again. She's back to this whole, there's a propane leak. She has a newborn baby, maybe 6 months old. So she's freaking out, right? So there's Mama Bear freaking out over her newborn baby. My kid's going to die. We're going to blow up, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just everything. I'm trying to calm her down. I'm just like, okay, let's just walk through this step by step. Let's solve this problem. That's my goal, is to solve a problem and get you back on the road. I'm not trying to give you, I'm not trying to leave you stranded. Like, I'm going to try to help you. And she just didn't want to help though. She's just like, do this. No, I'm not going to do this. Just, can you please have somebody do it then? Yeah, just do it, And so we're trying to walk through this problem. Anyways, long story short, she goes to, finally, we get to the point that she's like, I still smell propane. I've done everything you said. The fridge isn't working. Da, 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 da. I'm like, let's just take it to a repair shop then. Fine. We will find somebody. I will slip them $100 because I know the odds of me getting in July or August, whatever it was, to try to get into a shop was 1 in a million. So I find a shop. They squeeze me in. They check it. I don't know what happened between her dropping off at that shop and the shop doing the stuff and us getting that unit back, but they tested the propane sensor and it did not go off. That's huge. Like, if you had a propane leak and the sensor's not chirping, and we test these every time they go out because that's a big deal. And we show the renter in person, your sensors are all working. Like, we push the button, we show that they're beeping. That's huge. I mean, that's a big deal. So I'm like, okay, I step back. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, it's on me at this point, right? Like, maybe you were doing something wrong, maybe something, I don't know. But you clearly showed me a video that, she flipped. She lost it. She abandoned the RV. She just left. She went and got a hotel. She put it on. She tried to bill it to me. She tried to rent a car. And I told her, look, the most I'm going to do for you is what you paid in. I'm not going to pay any more than that. I'm like, whatever. So we lost tons of money. We didn't even get the rental. She used it for a week, mind you. She'd already used it for a week. We didn't even get the rental. I refunded her. Now the RV's stranded in Las Vegas somewhere. We have to go fly and go pick it up to bring it back. Right? And deal with all this, that, and the other. Again, she is livid on the phone. Just ripping me all. And I just had to take it. Because at this point, she had justification. I was like, okay, fine. But I'm like, the moment these things happen, when we get them back, I have that shop check it. I take it to a third-party shop. I want to cover all my bases because I know people are just itching to sue you. And so we did. So it comes back. We checked the whole propane system. Not a single leak. Nothing. Sensor was working fine. We put a lighter right up to it. It chirped right away. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, so in my mind, I'm like, did they cut the wires? Did they do something? Like, how is it that this shop couldn't get this thing to trigger? But yet, right when we get it back, it triggers immediately, And I did. And I took it to 2 different shops, had them checking everything because I was ready for the lawsuit. I had to be prepared. And, so again, everything, flying covers, everything passes. All sensors are working, propane tank, no leaks, nothing. I'm like, this is so bizarre, right? So I'm just like, whatever. But she was out of my hair. I'm like, I don't want to. Well, then she shows up to my lot with camera in hand and everything else, and she starts filming me, and she interrogates me to the point of tears. I'm crying because she's screaming at me and just yelling and just like calling me all sorts of crazy things, and I'm trying to kill her kid and all this other. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to say at this point. I'm just like, I've already refunded you. Like, we've already like kind of made our separate whatever. And I mean, she just left me just, you know, and I remember going to the office, looking at my office assistant at the time, and I'm crying. And she's just like, are you okay? And I mean, everybody was aware of the situation. Like all the staff was aware of what was going on. And I'm just like, this is probably it. The company's probably done at this point. Like this lady is probably going to ruin our company, you know, whatever it is, whatever that looks like. She's going to sue us into oblivion. Who the hell knows? And that was it. But crazy. So we finally got her out of our hair. You know, everything is, we think, kosher. I'm not even kidding. Like 2 weeks later, she writes us a 5-star review telling us how great we were. Like,
are you kidding me?
I'm like, this is
real bizarre.
This is the strangest thing. She calls us up. Can I get another rental from you guys? And I'm like, have you lost your mind? I didn't say this, but I'm just like, I mean, in my brain, I'm just like, mine just exploded. I'm like, what in the world is up with this lady? Like, so I don't even know why I'm telling. I'm just like, every year I have one of these.
Did you rent
no,
it? Okay.
no, we're done here.
Good.
No, and
it
I told
sounded
my
like
office
she was probably
assistant,
trying to set something up.
I don't know. I just like, I couldn't figure. I'm like, maybe she's schizophrenic.
Maybe,
I'm like,
yeah.
maybe she's bipolar. Like maybe she's got a mental disorder. And I'm not like, you know, whatever. But I'm like, you literally just ruined me. Like destroyed me. Everything, like, and tried to tell me you were going to sue my business and everything else. And then you're coming back to try to rent. Like, there's no way in hell I'm going to rent to you. You're crazy. No offense, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's a good story, though.
It is. And that's the thing is, like, I've got a story like that every single year.
Okay.
And that's why
that's why you're like, I'm
over it. I'm done. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. It's so much stress sometimes. These customers sometimes. But
I think it's important that you're talking about that, though, because, I mean, as business owners, like,
yes.
we go through things like that, you know?
It's true.
Like, it's not all just...
it's never always cake and ice cream.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's always those little moments. And I own another business, too, and not trying to promote it, but I own another business, too. And at that business, it's a mailbox store. And majority of the mailboxes are business owners because they just want their mail coming to, you know, like a suite number, and they don't want to come into their house.
Yeah, and you have to have that for Google, too.
Sure. Yeah, yes, it's true. Yeah, actually, that's where my mailbox is at, too. Okay. When I started my first business, or when I started
you have to
business.
have a location.
Right. It was so annoying. But anyways, I'm always talking to these business owners, too, right? I'm always interviewing them, similar to like what we're doing, because I'm always curious. And even with my rental agency, every business owner that comes through, I'm always generally curious, because you have to have a little bit of money to rent an RV. Like, it's not like cheap. It's still going to be cheaper than owning any day of the week, guaranteed it, but it's still like, it's a lot of money to shell out for a week's vacation.
For sure, yeah.
But no, I'm always picking their brains too. I'm always asking, you know, and it is good. I think you bring up a really good point, is that it's good to share some of the down moments. Yes. Have there been highs? Of course. I think my favorite thing, one of my mentorship programs, because this was probably, again, 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years ago when I signed up for this program. And I was just so frustrated with everything about the business. Like, I hated everything about it. And they just sat me down and they're like, I want you to find one thing, just one positive thing that you like about it. Because if you can't even find one, you got to walk away from this. Like, you got to be done with this thing, you know? And I've heard about burnout, and a lot of business owners deal with burnout, you know, after 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and they lost their passion. I never had a passion for this. That's the thing. This was something that fell into my lap because I got divorced and I own an RV. I just was trying to make lemonade out of lemons, and it blew up. You know, it took off on its own, and I wasn't expecting me to be here. I had way other plans and dreams for my life and way other visions and things that I would rather do. You know, but it was one that took off, and I still had to pay my bills, right? I still got to work. I got to make money, you know? But anyways, so the one thing that I found, because I really had to think about it, I'm like, what do I even like about this? You know, I had to think about it. And the one thing that I really like, and it just blesses my heart, is when a renter comes back and they had a great trip. And I'm like, awesome. Tell the world that you had a great trip. Write it on Google, you know, tell everybody about it, because that's about the only thing that I live for with this business. Because I've taken the RVs out, I've taken trips with them, and it's great. It's nice to get away for that trip. It's nice to go to the state park. It's nice to just get away and just, you know, Be out in the outdoors for, and we, RVs used for all sorts of variety of things, but that's the bulk of it. That's our main renters is people going, camping and whatnot. And so I love that about that business, but I hate that, like, if they did have a problem, like if they call me on the phone and there's a problem, which again, probably 1 out of every 5 rentals has a problem because of the RV, what I try to tell them on the phone, because they want a solution right then and there, and 9 times out of 10, there's no solution. There's just no way to solve the problem because of just the nature of the beast. And I just try to tell them, like, look, man, I'm not a horrible business owner. You can read over 200 reviews. You can tell that I'm not a shady company. I'm not just trying to dog my renters. I'm like, look, I want you to enjoy your trip as best as you can. Just have a great time. And worry about this when we come back. Like, we can do whatever we can for now. And when we come back, we'll sit and we'll talk and we'll figure out what's fair, Because I'd rather you not be the whole time, oh, man, this, that, and the other, and I need my money back. I don't want that going through your mind. What I want going through your mind is, are you spending time with your kids? Are you spending time with your wife and family? Are you having a good time? Are you getting to your location safe and sound? Whatever that looks like. And that's what I want you worried about and focus on. And then when they come back, it's cool because then we'll sit down and they're like, you know what? Yes, this was a problem, but like you really smoothed it over and made me feel really good about the whole thing, even though, yes, it was a nuance or yes, it was annoying or whatever, fill in the blank. But like the fact that you just took the time to tell me these things and let me know that you're not going to be, stiff about it when I come back, like that was great. And it just made the rest of the trip great. And so that's my number one thing that I want to make sure is that every trip is awesome. Like my original motto, which is still on our shirts, is enjoy your trip. It's very silly.
Yeah.
Very silly because now with the marijuana industry, totally rabbit trail. I'm Hightened Path RV, spelled H-I-G-H, not H-E-I. So people are always like, oh, it's because you're in Colorado and smoking up. You're Hightened Path, right? You're getting high. You're right. And I was like, no, this was before marijuana was legal, blah, 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 blah. But even on the back, it says enjoy your trip. So people are like, oh, you just want to blaze up and enjoy their trip, right? I'm like, no. I'm like, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together when I put all this together. Like it just fell in place. But that is kind of still our motto is like, now our thing is like, we're the best company in Colorado. That's what we say. We are the best RV rental company in Colorado, hands down, by far. And that's what we're going to pitch in. Is everything going to be perfect every time? No, probably not. But we're going to make it as best as possible. Like I've always wanted to be a 5-star company. And that's probably where most of the stress comes from because I've dealt with so many other companies and I've dealt with so many other individuals running RVs. And I see these things and I'm just like, you didn't even wash it. Like you didn't, like I already told you this stuff. I want it when you show up, like this has to be kind of comparable to a hotel room. Is it a hotel room? No, not even close. But I want the same experience at least that when you go there, it's clean. The linens are clean. It's ready to go. Your pots and everything's just ready. And like you just get in and you're like, yeah, this is going to be so much fun. What happens once you leave my lot to your destination? I can't control that. Yeah. Can't do anything about that. But I'm going to do my best, at least in the customer service and the reservation part and booking and making everything as simple and easy as possible. And then you just show up and you're just like, all right, let's go. And you've already watched the videos and you've already done all the paperwork and you just like, you show up and you're like, okay, where's the RV? Where's the gauge? And it takes us 15, 20 minutes and you're out the door. And that's like where I come in with the 5-star thing is just trying to be the best company by far and just making it a stellar experience every single time. It's hard to do, but that's always been my goal. So, sorry.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know how much time we left, and I could talk your ear off all day long.
You're good. We'll probably start wrapping up right about now. I think it was really, really good for you to talk about some of the things that you were talking about. How like you just don't know if this is where you want to. What you want to do.
I think every business owner runs into that. Like again, however they started.
I just ran into it last month.
Did you? Yeah, no, it's crazy. And like, sadly, and not to eat up all your time, sadly, I'm actually at a very pivotal point in my life because something very dramatic happened over a month ago. And I don't want to get into it because I don't want to ruin the mood or the whatever with the viewers or listeners. But it was something personal that happened to me that I've been dealing with for 17 years, and now it's gone. And I have all sorts of now free time and like opportunities that I wouldn't have had before because of the situation. And I'm now at a pivot to where I'm like, do I continue to try to pursue this business? I've been grinding it out for 12 years, and I feel like I'm still kind of stuck. Or do I just step away, walk away, sell it, fill in the blank, and start fresh with the things that I had always wanted to do.
For sure.
I mean, because I'm sure you probably know this, and other people, you see the memes and whatnot all over Facebook and Instagram. As people get older and whatnot, they always say, I wish I would have taken more chances doing the things that I loved. I wish I would have taken more and pursued my passions or whatever that is. My wife hounds me about this all the time. Well, you're not doing anything you're passionate about. I'm like, I know. I'm like, but I have to be able to make money. I'm like, if you can figure out how to make your passion and make money with your passion, you've hit the nail on the head. But not many people can do that or figure that out. So I'm
it's
kind of
hard,
at
for sure.
It's super hard. So now I'm at that point, and it's funny because ideally, like if you told me right now, Philip, what would, like if there was no money issue or any issue and you knew you were going to succeed at, what would you do? I would go be an actor. I would go be a director and film movies.
Yeah.
I would go absolutely. I used to do this.
Dabbled in the
I
video
used to do
stuff.
this stuff and I loved it. It's like, it's my persona. I love it. Like I love being in front of camera. I love like all this kind of stuff. It's great. And I'm like, I would totally do that. And ironically, like not ironically, but I'm a Christian. And so they're now, like I've seen the money on the table, but I don't know how to raise funds. This is an area that I suck at, is raising money and raising capital. I've read so many books and I can't seem to get it. I've met with so many investors and it just like, it never seems to pan out. It drives me crazy. And I'm like, I see, you watch Shark Tank and you watch all these other places and they're just like handing money out. I'm like, where's my money? No, but, but
you gotta find
if I could do that, like I would love to start the company. But now I'm seeing actually ads on Facebook of like 2 to 3 companies that are starting up in like the Christian genre for film and like making Bible stories and things. I'm like, I was thinking about this morning, even before this interview. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get it on a plane ticket, find these offices where these companies are located.
Do it.
And I'm literally just going to go there and be like, look, here's what I can bring to the table. Like I have a Bible scholar. I have a Bible doctrine degree. I've edited video, I've filmed video, I've directed video,
Nice.
I've acted in video. I can do it all. And that's not to sound prideful or cocky, but what can I do to help your company right now? Because I feel like this would be a great opportunity for me to do this.
Yeah.
So it's weird to end an interview on that note.
No, I think it's great.
But it's just like, I think that's great because again, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, like I did a little bit of homework before I came here and looked at some of the various shows and listened to some of the interviews. And most of these people love it, right? They're doing what they're doing. They're doing what they're passionate about. Or they saw a problem and they want to solve that problem because it's something near and dear to them. Again, with me, this wasn't the issue. It was a problem for me. And I just had to solve my own problem. And it just turned into this business. And
well,
here
a lot
I am.
of the guests we have are pretty new at business too. So.
Really?
So you're seasoned.
I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran, so I've been doing this long. I know, and that's the thing is like people say they're like, you are successful. You're like you're always in the black. You're always making money, and you're able to not like back in the day. I had to have a part-time job in the winter to just keep afloat because I was still trying to run the business and grow the business, and there was no revenue coming in the wintertime. And I don't have to do that anymore. So again, I'm like in those areas, I'm super blessed, and I'm thankful I can kind of take the winter off. I mean, money's tight, but I can kind of take the winter off and just chill. But yeah, I mean, ideally, it would be awesome if I could turn this business over to either my employees, like what do you call that? What do they call that? A co-op or something? Like doing like a co-op for my employees and let them kind of take it. But I feel like they're not at that, like, they don't want to run the day-to-day operations.
You could for sure find someone who would though.
That could, or I could just flip it and sell it. Or
sell it, yeah.
I don't have any debt with the business because I built it from scratch. So I could technically walk away from it. That's been the one thing that I'm like, my wife's like, why don't you just walk away from it? I'm like, oh, I hate to admit that it's my baby.
Yeah.
Because it's an ugly baby sometimes. But I guess it is my baby. And I'm like, I've worked so hard for this baby. And I'm like, could I really just step away from it? I don't know. That's a tough pill to swallow.
You'll be the first guest to come on the show to denounce their business.
No, not denouncing my business. My business is awesome, but you know what I mean. I mean, I'm just being candid. I'm being real, and I think most of my renters, my employees, my owners, they're all love that about me. Because I'm very real with them. I'm very upfront with them. I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to lie to you about anything. I'm just going to be honest with you. You know, be real with me. Be honest with me. Like, don't be one of those shady renters and lie about everything you just did when I can clearly see you did it.
Yeah. Well, all right,
anyway.
man. Yeah, this has been good, man. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your experience and
Absolutely.
and your business and yeah. So we'll start wrapping this up.
Thank you. What else?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, this has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.